Reputation is the cornerstone of power.
My name is my name!
Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win.
Sometimes who you are is enough, dog.
Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable, and enemies will pop up on all sides.
Charlie Murphy!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode here on Bully Whispers, and we are here today to evaluate Law 5 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. So much depends on reputation, guard it with your life, in the TV show The Wire. According to Greene, everyone, even your closest friends, have secret recesses that they never reveal, and to think too much about that would be very disturbing. So, most people prefer to ignore it, judging instead based on appearances, such as clothing, gestures, words, actions, etc., and this is something we see throughout the entire show in almost every aspect, especially in Season 4 when they focus in on the kids in school. However, in order to truly examine this law, we will have to do so on more of an individual scale than a general one. So in this episode, we will evaluate Law 5 in the TV show The Wire by first examining the impact of having a large reputation, as shown through Omar. However, Omar already has a legendary reputation to start the series. So from there, we will move on to the process of building and maintaining a reputation, where we will be focused primarily on Marlo Stanfield, although we will run into Namond, Bodie, D'Angelo, and Prop Joe along the way. During China's War of the Three Kingdoms, General Liang was trapped in a city with only a handful of troops and surrounded by 150,000 enemies. Liang ordered his troops to hide, and the city gates opened, while he put on a robe, grabbed his loot, walked out by himself, and just started jamming out. He put on quite a show, and his enemies retreated immediately. You see, Liang was known as the Sleeping Dragon and had a reputation for being clever. He was notorious for being able to set up effective traps, as well as a level of intel that made him seem like he always knew what his opponents were doing. Because of his reputation, despite the fact that he was alone and in his robe, his enemies assumed that he was up to something and just gave in right away. One of the consequences of having a large reputation is that it precedes you wherever you go, and this can be either good or bad depending on how you're viewed. In the case of Ziggy, he had a rather well-known reputation for being a joke, and as we see, no one takes his efforts to appear like a gangster seriously, and he's generally just dismissed. Easily the best example of a big reputation working well for someone would be the one being alluded to earlier, Omar.
Yo!
They didn't even need to see him. They just hear the whistling and automatically know who he is and what his presence means. Now, as previously mentioned, Omar starts off the series with a big reputation, but how do you go about building one? Well, according to Greene, the important thing is that the reputation you are building is one of your own design and that you maintain it, which brings us briefly to Namond Brice. Namond was working hard to craft a sort of flashy, successful gangster image using the usual methods, clothes, gestures, words, actions, etc., as well as a technique used to great effect by P.T. Barnum, mocking your opponents.
Hey, yo, Donut, drive me away from these ignorant bitches, man. You can't tell these niggas nothing.
Unfortunately for Namond, he was unable to keep up his image and ended up getting beat down. However, it all worked out best for Namond when Bunny Colvin took him under his wing, although it usually doesn't work out that well. As Greene notes, in the social realm, one bad step could prove disastrous, and we see this with both D'Angelo and Bodie, where one bad move, be it yelling at Stringer or talking to McNulty, arguably ruined the reputations as stand-up guys, with them dying shortly thereafter. Interestingly enough, Marlo, the character who seemed most concerned with his reputation,
My name is my name!
apparently hadn't built up as much of one by the end as you would expect.
Do you know who I am?
Nigga, you know who I am?
Now to be fair, there is a very good chance that someone would have known the name but not known what they look like. Had he asked, "Do you know who Marlo Stanfield is?" he might have gotten a different response. So that still leaves us with the question, did Marlo do a good job building his reputation? According to Law 5, in beginning to build a reputation, you should focus on gaining a reputation for one strong quality, which Marlo does.
Ain't no disrespect to your professionalism or nothing. We all impressed as how you lose motherfuckers like that.
However, Greene also specifies that early acts in this endeavor must be recorded and publicized, which gets people talking about you and your reputation will spread. This brings up an interesting dynamic for Marlo, and one that his strategy of boarding up dead bodies in the vacants handles pretty well for the most part. Obviously, due to the nature of his actions, Marlo can't publicize them too much, otherwise the wrong people will start talking, namely the police, and due to the consistent nature of the disposals, much like a serial killer's calling card, it would make it very easy to attach all of the bodies to him once they were found. But on a street level, when it comes to the locals, his method worked brilliantly. According to Greene, there are two main benefits that will start to kick in once your reputation begins to gain traction. First, it exaggerates your strengths without you having to put in the work to do so, and since Marlo's strength is killing people, it seems to have worked.
You know Avon's gonna put it on you, right? Shit, let him tack it on my jacket. Don't make me no never mind.
Now, obviously, Avon knew it wasn't him, but even if Avon said that he didn't know who did it, Marlo would have been everyone's first assumption. Second, it increases the aura of fear and respect around your name in a general sense as well, which we see especially through Chris Partlow, who the kids, and future soldiers, see as some sort of supernatural zombie master. However, when it comes to people who aren't locals, like the crews from New York, Marlo's method was rather counterproductive, and he was called out on that.
My man's saying if you just vanish in the bodies like that, it do kind of defeats his own purpose. And niggas don't know if they went back to the Bronx or whatever.
Either way, they weathered the storm from New York, and from here Marlo begins his play to take over the co-op, which is where Prop Joe's reputation may come into play more than it seems at first glance. After the shipment was stolen, Marlo began pressing the issue of meeting the connection with Prop Joe, and Prop Joe's reputation may not only be the reason why the request was made, but also why Joe accepted. Now, it may seem like Joe's reputation as a schemer is the reason why the request was made, but rather I think that's why he accepted. His reputation as being a schemer as opposed to a fighter may be the reason the request was made in the first place. To be fair, Marlo is the type who might just ask anyone. That being said, if someone like Avon had been in charge, that request might not have been made at all, and if it was, it probably would have went down differently. So, did Marlo do a good job building his reputation according to Law 5? The short answer is actually no. The answer that provides a little context is, no, he started off well in building his reputation, but never expanded it much past just being a killer. Now, obviously, his timeline to expand was cut short by the police, so he might have eventually, but at the series' end, if the police hadn't interfered, he would be moving forward with a very one-dimensional reputation. At least Prop Joe had the rep of being the only one who could get good quality product, but Marlo shattered the illusion of exclusivity surrounding the Greeks, so his reputation might not have been enough moving forward. Well, thanks for watching this episode here on Bully Whispers. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next score.